Yeah. All right.
Well, last time
Actually,
someone said I showed a lot of thigh, so.
well, yeah, but that's a good thing.
Oh.
How is that a bad thing? Yeah, exactly. How is that a bad thing?
Maybe it will get us more views.
Well, anything that gets us more views, honestly. At this stage, like, you know, so we can go past, maybe we should even put Moppy in the center. Hi, everybody. Podcast 199. One step closer. Yep.
Almost.
Today is going to be programming the hundreds. Right, so that's actually an important one because the hundreds will not give you anything. Well, let me rephrase. You will not get anything out of the hundreds per se, but they will allow you to do everything. It's going to be a base of a pyramid, the 100. I need to explain, in order to explain how to program it, I need to explain how I'm using them, right? Because the 100 is a concept, that high rep stuff. So what am I using it for? I am using it as a movement pattern type of thing. So what do I mean by that? I do when I get to the fives, I lift very heavy, yoke carries, strongman, you know, powerlifting, stuff like that. Whenever you go over 90, 95%, obviously form breaks down. You are creating a stress on the system a lot, and usually movement patterns break down a little bit. That's normal, you're over 90%. That means that usually you're like, ow, ouch, ooh, don't know about this or whatever. And that's what I use the hundreds for, is to correct that. So whatever aches from my heavy training, let's say shoulder on bench press, that's a pretty common one, lower back from the squat or the knees or whatever, that's what I'm going to use the hundreds for. So I'm going to go to the Globo Gym and correct the movement pattern. So that is going to be the main purpose of the hundreds in the way I do them. There's another purpose I'm going to explain, but it's a concept that I want to explain because it will allow you to program for yourself, which is very important. But so I'll explain how I'm using them, and then from there we can start a deeper conversation, right? So for me, it's simple. Lately, it's my right shoulder and my right lower back always, right? Right glute med that is tensing up, that is constantly under pressure. And then sometimes that right shoulder gets a bit cranky. Jiu-jitsu 4 years, strongman, dumbbell, all that stuff, which means this one is not always completely happy. So what I do is I go to the gym, and then I'm going to find the movement pattern where my shoulder is achy. Like, you have to understand that there is no injury. I didn't pop anything in the shoulder, but you know, like lately is this right here. It's like, it's not happy. No, it's not.
But it's not bad either.
Well, it's not injured, but you know, like here it's not happy. So if I take my right shoulder, like I can crank my left this way, but if I crank like right here at the end, right here, it's not happy. So before it was, you know, when I was doing like this movement right there sometimes, or even at some point just doing this, I could tell that my right shoulder was not happy about specific movement. Right. So I go to the Globo Gym and I'm going to recreate that movement pattern, and I'm going to go 4 to 5 sets of 20 reps on it. The first 2 sets is like, ooh, ouch, ooh, well, that doesn't feel too good and everything, but the reason for 20 reps is that it's so light that it doesn't hurt. It's just like I'm greasing the wheel. And the first 2 sets, honestly, are useless. They prepare the work for the set 3, 4, and 5. But you have to understand, like the first 2 sets, usually it's ow, ow, ow. By the third set, get a pump a little bit, get some blood flow, you go like, all right.
You understand where to find
right, it. Where you go like, oh, okay, so that feels smoother, right? So you're looking for a smooth movement pattern. Again, you are greasing the wheel. And usually by set 4, I'm like, oh, okay, back on rails. Ooh, I get that. That's the movement. There we go. That's what you lost when you went super heavy, because you had to go full exploitation and fuck it. Right, so what you lost is that, ooh, I'm on rail here, because when it's heavy, you're not going to have time to think like that. But that's what the hundreds is going to be. So then by set number 5, I'm in exactly where I want to be, using the muscle that I want and getting that blood flow, that stimulus into the movement pattern I was looking for. So the hundreds, as I was explaining, is the part of the skill part on the performance box. That means it's really the tension over position. I am creating the proper tension in the right places. It requires 100 reps to get there. So when I do rear delt, for example, I'm going to do 3 exercises on the rear delt. So I'm going to go 300 reps total, at least in the 200s, right? So I'll do 3 exercises, maybe 4 sets of 15 to 20 reps, right? 5 sets if I feel it's needed, but you get the idea. It's 200-300 reps over 3 exercises, on the shoulder or things like that, because you just need, like if the shoulder is not happy, I'm going to do that exercise, then I'm going to do this one, like the reverse pec deck like this. Why? Because when I'm here, for example, I feel like my shoulder blade get pummeled a lot from the bench, the monster dumbbell. When I'm here, it's like, if I stretch this way, the right shoulder is like, ooh.
Hello.
Yeah, I feel that a bit. So what I'm going to do, reverse pec deck, I'm going to stretch it, come back. Stretch it, come back. Stretch it, come back. I can't do that when it's heavy. I can only, because I'm at risk, right? It's not necessarily the best leverage. So I go, and that's why I like machines. I like the Global Gym, because then it allows me to get into very specific positions that are very poor leverage for the shoulder and would be dangerous if I were to go at it hard or heavy. So instead, I go 20 reps. I mean, I still go hard, but 20 reps is light, right? And I recreate the movement pattern that apparently my body is having a problem getting through. Right. So you have to understand that in that case, pain is just a barometer. Pain is a warning system. My body telling me like, we're not doing that. Yeah, pay attention to that one, because that's a movement pattern that is not correct. Right. And so the first 2 sets are like my body going like, not that one, not that one. So the first 2 sets you're looking for, it's very much exploration based, right? It's like, no, not here, no, not there, no, not there. And by the 3rd set, the body's like, aha, we're getting closer. 4th and 5th set is like that one. Keep doing this, keep doing this. And I'm rebuilding that proper movement pattern again, getting the blood flow and the proper muscles working. Right. That's what Polishnikov was saying. Good technique is hypertrophy of the right muscles. Right. So there's 2 ways to do the 100. There's the hypertrophy part. So there's the part that I'm using it for usually is to wherever I'm banged up, and then the hypertrophy part. The hypertrophy we're going to get to. But first I want to explain how I use the 100s the most, which is there anytime I get beat up. Right? And there is some muscles that I know need to be there in order for me not to feel too beat up, like certain movement patterns that I start losing. I'm not a good presser, so usually pressing is a problem. So no matter what, I'll go to the gym and just find a movement pattern and just bang 4 sets of 20 this way, behind the neck or one arm. I do a lot of one arm because that's my chance to do more unilateral work. So I do a lot of one arm pressing because it allows me to stretch the pec, stretch the shoulder, find the movement pattern, stretch everything, come back, stretch everything, come back. When it comes to pressing, I do a lot of unilateral work, and machines are a great way to find the right movement pattern that I'm looking for and just bang 4 or 5 sets of 20 reps. You know what I mean? So that's my first thing that I use the 100s for, is whenever I'm beat up somewhere, I'll go there. So if it's for the lower back, I'll go the hammies, I'll get the glutes, I'll do like all those booty movements the fitness models are doing, because you can find your glutes very well using them.
It is true.
And what do? I do one leg at a time. So I do the butt thing when you press on something. Yeah. I do the one leg press. I do the one leg leg curl, the one leg extension, and then I'm finding, like, if your knee, my left knee for whatever reason has been aching a bit lately on the patella tendon. So I find the VMO on the left, and then I just bang 5 sets of 20. And then I'm like here. So I put my finger on it and I'm like here, 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 here. And the first 2 sets, I can't quite find it, but by the 3rd one is better, 4th and 5th set, I'm like, ooh, there. Yeah. And then the movement pattern is coming back.
I also noticed you talking a lot about like different types of machines that you try out and different types of movement patterns that you find in them. Like, for example, the leg press didn't work because of this and this reason, and you're like, oh, that's also because I do it in the squat or in this and that.
Right, right.
So you learn also a lot about yourself and the way you move.
Exactly. So that's a very important part. The 100 is where exploration is at its fullest. So that means that you want to really feel the movement pattern and also experiment with it. Like, what happens when I do this? What happens when I do that? So I have a lot of this. We're bringing back on the rear delt. Is usually when things go wrong, that means I started to rotate incorrectly on one side versus the other. There's an overcompensation that's being made. So I'll just try different pattern until I find the right one. Am I placing my elbows the correct way? So it's a very much an exploration phase to allow my body to find the proper movement pattern again that I lost somewhere in the heavy stuff. Yeah, it doesn't matter. So I'll try a lot of different machines. I'll try a lot of different movements. Usually one arm, because it's better for exploration.
So one leg, right?
Yeah, one leg, one arm. So unilateral movements. allows you to control better. I like the one leg leg press a lot, for example, because you have to stabilize your hips as you do it. So the glutes are actually very active on that movement. But same thing on the legs, I even go like usually 4-5 sets of 25 reps. That burns everywhere, but good. It burns everywhere, that's for sure. So you can still push hard on that. But no matter what, it's about feeling the muscle work and feeling, more importantly, the movement pattern work. So because I get so beat up from the heavy training.
Right.
So whenever you're beat up somewhere, hundreds.
Right.
And it's not just one exercise, not just 100 reps. It's 100 reps per exercise. You do as many exercises as you need. So I go to a global gym and I go until I can't concentrate
so how
properly
long
any longer.
How long does it take?
An hour and 20 minutes. It's not that taxing, so I can usually, most training session I try to keep around 45 minutes. When I go heavy, an hour max, because otherwise it's too taxing. There's been a lot written on that, on testosterone levels start to drop. Like, you don't want to train hard for past 45 minutes. But this is not hard work. It's just, I'm not even focusing honestly on getting a massive pump. I used to look at it like that, like just trying to find a pump. That doesn't work out for me.
So what are you looking for then now?
Movement pattern.
Movement pattern.
Like the movement pattern feels right. It's like, all right, nothing aches. And it's like the movement pattern feels right. I stretch, I squeeze. So in that aspect, right, so there are certain constraints on training the hundreds. The first constraint is no emotional attachment to the session. I'm just doing work. I'm not trying to get a massive pump. This is a training session, but in a way it doesn't matter. I'm not going to get anything out of that training session. That's not true, because it's going to give me access to everything. The better I do on the hundreds, the better I'll do on the fives. Right. But I go with a mindset of I'm not getting anything out of that session, but greasing the wheel. I'm just finding my movement pattern again. That's all, nothing else than that. That's not quite true, but that's my approach.
Your body, basically.
Right, but no emotional attachment. I'm here to do work. I'm here to find the proper movement patterns and bang it for 200 to 300 reps. That's all. That's all I'm doing. So for me, it's very important, because otherwise I set the wrong expectations for the session, and it starts to get to my head. Then I want too much out of it, and then I'm going to be tempted to go heavier. I'm going to turn it into a session of 50s, and now I lost again.
And now you want to have a pump, and you want to this,
and now I'm gone the other way. And now there's too much expectation on the session, and then the next day I'm looking in the mirror to see if my biceps have grown, but they haven't. So I get frustrated, and then I'm back to square one. Yeah. And what I did not do is correct the movement pattern, and my shoulder still hurts. So now the fives, so now I'm not doing well on the fives, so now I'm pissed, and then the whole thing unravels. So low emotional attachment. The hundreds work, but it takes time, right? It takes, so the fives, I can do 3-4 weeks of short cycles.
Correcting a movement pattern. That
right, and it's high reps, and the stress and the stimulus is different. And so this one, we're talking months, maybe even years on stuff, like maybe like a year where you have to correct something that is not working properly. It'll take you 6 months, 8 months, depending on, 6 months to a year to gain some muscle mass there too. We're going to talk about hypertrophy, but first is you have to understand that the microcycle of the hundreds is long. Why do I say that? Because you're going to see that I don't train the hundreds time length-wise like I train the fives. Like I train the fives, my cycles are short, like usually 4 weeks, right? Stuff like that, maybe 6. The 50s, that's actually 12 weeks, 16 weeks. The hundreds, it's 6 months to a year of the same shit. Yeah. And so I vary the exercises, so time-wise difference, but like if you look at, it's full exploration, right? And it's also, so that means like full trying new exercises, new movement patterns, stuff like that. Yeah. So it's very much exploration based, very little exploitation, very long. So if I score everything from a 1 to 3, right? You look at exploration is a 3, exploitation is a 1. Time-wise, it's a 3. Length of the microcycle, emotional involvement is a 1. Things like this. So I have my constraint that I put toward those sessions. And to me, it's just finding the right movement pattern so that my fives will do better. Usually, interestingly, in my cycles, I'm either 105s or I'm 50s, high 50s, low 50s.
I wanted to talk about that a little bit, because lately you've been training more in the, let's say, the extremes. So you've been training either the fives or the hundreds. Yeah. Can you explain a bit why you do it and how you feel?
So it's that's
why you
state.
Do it mostly?
Because that's what the results are right now. So right now I'm in a phase where it's very much either, so I train hundreds in the morning, fives at night. Not everybody can go to the gym twice a day. So I understand that. So maybe you train the hundreds one day, fives the next day if you were to be in the same cycle as I am. So right now what I do is in the morning I do the hundreds. Let's say like I worked on rear delt and decline and the low part of the pec. So more decline types of movement. Why? Because if I go up like the pressing motion where I bring my elbow up like this and down is where my shoulder is less happy right now because of all the other work. I was doing a lot of incline, heavy and bench presses. So I'm working that in the gym where I would do one exercise of rear delt for hundreds, then I would go into a decline, do hundreds, 4 sets, 5 sets of 20. And then I alternated that for 3 exercises. So I did 300 reps of 3 exercises, everything. And now basically everything is connected better. So that means that this afternoon I will do the hundreds, I'll do my power squats and some form of stiff leg.
But you never go do a
right, never do the 100. Right, so because I did that this morning on my rear delt and pecs, low pecs, I would not do a bench press this afternoon. I switch. Right. It's usually upper body, lower body type of thing, right? So, and then tomorrow I would do legs and then I would do a bench press at night, something like that. So, but right now if you look, it's extremes.
Interesting because you also work your entire body then every day.
Yeah, but through 2 different stimulus, completely opposite stimulus.
How do you recover from it?
Actually, I do really well. The reason I do hundreds in the morning is because I have very low emotional attachment to it and I would not be able to do it at 5 o'clock. So I do it in the morning because it doesn't matter. Yeah. In my mind, I'm getting nothing out of the hundreds. Again, that's not true, but in my mind, it's like I'm getting nothing out of it but the movement pattern. So it's like a gigantic warm-up session. Right. I get a pump, I sweat a bit, everything feels good, but my session is at night, is the fives.
Yeah, so there's no...
That's what I'm going to kill. So that's why I can't do the fives at 5 o'clock, the hundreds at 5 o'clock, because then I would put too much pressure on the hundreds. It would have to matter. Yeah. And it doesn't. In my mind, the hundreds don't matter. That's not true because the hundreds is the base that allows me to do the 50s and the fives. Right. But that is my mindset when I go at it. So at 5, I'm going to give everything I have, like I'm going to do power squats and maybe some deficit stiff leg today, but it's going to be, I'm going to put everything I have, I'm going to go heavy, and my emotional attachment is going to be
so for you feeling you haven't even trained today, it's like tonight I'm going to do
mentally this. I haven't. Physically I feel it, but mentally I haven't. I'll explain how I program the fives on a later podcast, but today it's the 100. So I do it in the morning, I go to the gym. Yeah, we'll do one podcast per. Exactly. Yeah. I go to the gym, I take care of business, I leave. Yeah. It's easier when Janina is with me because then we can just talk and I don't have to think about what I'm doing. So now, let's be honest. Is it boring? Yes. Like that's an argument we had because we're in the middle of doing lats and she's like, I'm bored. And I lost my shit, first of all, because it's lat training. Lat training is never boring. I would do lats every day if I could. Why? Because I'm good at it, mostly.
Often, but you were about
to, like this one, I lost my shit because, like, pay attention. Make it not boring. Is it boring? Of course it is. It's you're doing 4 or 5 sets of 20 reps. It's fucking boring. And it's on machines and everything.
It's for a CrossFitter,
it's murder. But guess what? This is what's going to allow you to do CrossFit without breaking. The problem is that the mindset of this is boring, that means you lost the session already. Right. It means you're not paying attention. So what I do, for example, is I do a set of 15, 20. I stretch in between sets. So I stretch for 20, 30 seconds, rest 30 seconds, go do my set. So you all want to stretch all the time. Like CrossFitters, mobility work, do it in between sets. Like, seriously, you do rear delt exercises, you got to pump, stretch with your band, do your calisthenics stuff in between. You're going to get a massive stretch out of it while the muscle is pumped and being engaged. That's where you're going to gain mobility. Do your mobility work in between your assistance work sets. That will work really, really, really well. But if you're bored doing it, that means you're not paying attention. It is boring as an activity. That doesn't mean you have to be bored doing it.
Anyway.
Pay attention. It will save your shoulders.
I know.
No, you don't, because that is not true. You know, because I'm there taking care of you, making you train a certain way. Be honest. If I wasn't there, oh my God, it'd be a nightmare on this one.
You're my better half, Mike.
Yeah, there you go. But it's important, like, to understand that it is boring. I agree, but but you still need to do it correctly. So don't be bored. It requires more energy.
Exactly. Yes. On this part, I really agree with you. I was wrong on that one. But what I also noticed is when you do the hundreds and you take care of it, like I engaged so much better when I do my CrossFit, and like that's
right. So that's the mindset
like
you need to have.
When I saw the benefits from it and I started to feel really good and I don't have pain in my traps, I was like,
exactly.
Yeah,
there's a reason for it, right? So that doesn't mean the session itself is the most exciting thing ever. I agree, but you can make it that by understanding how much you're going to gain from it on the other training session, and also that if you're full exploration and try to find the muscle and stretch it, contract it, stretch, squeeze, you can actually find a place of connection where suddenly there is a purpose and an interest in doing that set.
Oh, that's, yeah, exactly.
Like bodybuilders.
As you find the value in it and you see how much it's worth, it's going to be mentally a lot easier to do it and to do it correctly. That's how I experience it.
Right, but let's be honest, you need to understand.
From Julian,
I was very encouraging.
I know, but I was very encouraging.
I was, yeah.
But also seeing like the difference, like when I do anything overhead while I squat, how I recover, how I feel, I'm like, yeah.
Right, but see, people always want to train more, always want to do hard work. Well, guess what? That's what the hard work is you go to the gym going like, oh my God, like you look at the machines and then, but you do it well.
Well, exactly.
That's what hard work is doing the work that you need to do and do it well, even though it's not necessarily your favorite thing in the world.
And it's also like just die, and that's a bit more towards myself. Just dying is not enough. That's not doing work. You know what I mean? It's not
doing what you like is great, but there's other work that needs to be done.
Workouts are not always the work. It's like sometimes it's skill exercises. It's this type of stuff. It's
it is hard work because people think hard work means dying, but that's not true. Sometimes, sometimes hard work is doing the stuff that is not, again, that is boring in nature, but that you put your best in it so that you get the most out of it. Why? Because that session will allow you to do better on the 50s and the 5s. Right. And that's hard work.
Well, so that because it will allow you to not pop your elbow or pop your shoulder
or your shoulder. Yeah, exactly. Or your shoulder not hurting your neck, not hurting your back or stuff like that. So it is a very, very important session, but it is true that you have to make it important. So let's do it. Exactly. If you don't make it important, it will be boring. But if it is boring, it's because you didn't make it important. You need to put more energy into it. And so, again, stretch in between sets. That's okay.
Well, take care of yourself type of thing too, right?
It will. This is what this station is, the base of the pyramid, in a way that will allow you to get to where you want to be, because we all have imbalances that need to be addressed.
You always have something, right?
There's always something.
Not completely in the right
a movement pattern that is not what it should be. You're lacking rear delt, you're lacking teres major, or whatever. And this is going to be your chance to work on that. Is that session where you're reestablishing the movement pattern. So, but you can't do it in a CrossFit workout, because the point of the CrossFit workout is to go faster, is to go harder and everything. So that's the session where everything, all your environment is controlled, right? Where you can stretch in between, work on your mobility, but also work the proper movement pattern, get the blood flow going. It's light enough that you can control the movement correctly. So that means that you have a fully controlled environment where you can gain the most out of it, so that you can transfer that to a harder training session later. So, but the mindset is so important on that session, because it will give you everything, but you gain nothing, or it feels like you gain nothing out of it. So that's so important.
Right.
So so there's a movement pattern aspect, but there's also the hypertrophy aspect. So if you remember the performance box, it goes skill, muscle capacity, neural output. So muscle capacity is muscle quantity versus muscle quality. We're in the hundreds, we're going to start to go toward muscle quantity, so hypertrophy. As Polishnikov was saying, right technique is hypertrophy of the right muscles. And sometimes some muscles are just not agreeing to develop as the other ones. I do anything with my lats, they grow.
I do everything with my lats and they're still not there.
Right, but their biceps are growing like crazy, while mine are not. It's just like the world isn't fair on things like that. Some people will always lean toward certain things. So the hundreds will also allow us to target those muscles a little bit extra.
Right.
Right, so then if I go for hypertrophy, I might go instead of set of 20, I might go sets of 15. 4 sets of 15, stuff like that, more like I call that the low hundreds, right?
Right.
A tiny bit heavier where I'm focusing again on stretching the muscle and squeezing. When I go toward hypertrophy, I train like a bodybuilder. The other one is more movement pattern. This one is going to be stretch and squeeze, and it's very important that you understand that. I see too many people when they do assistance work who are just banging the reps.
Right, that's
right, and then they focus on the middle part of the movement because that's where momentum is built, and then they can feel a bit better and they get a pump.
Yeah.
No, that's not what you're going to do. Look at all the pro bodybuilders. It's simple. They stretch, they squeeze. Stretch, squeeze. So what you do is...
I think they do that also to make the movement easier, like just get it over with. It comes with that intent as well, right?
No, but you need to squeeze the muscle and stretch it so that you have control of it also. And then so that, because it's the muscle working, it's not creating momentum, it's not the whole body thing, is isolate the muscle, stretch it, squeeze it, stretch it, squeeze it, stretch it, squeeze it.
Yeah, the point
no matter
is
what, so the
feeling
muscle,
not doing amount of reps.
right, we're in the hundreds, we're not in the 50s, we're not in the 5s. It's not about lifting as much weight as possible, it's full control of the muscle. Right, and it's going to help. So if I want to add hypertrophy, I hold the contraction for a second, stretch, squeeze, hold for a second, stretch, squeeze, hold for a second. Stretch does not mean go to my trap because I'm trying to get my dorsal. So I'm going to stretch the muscle, last dorsal, and then bring it back, squeeze for a second. Stretch it, squeeze it for a second. Stretch it, squeeze it for 15 reps, and I'm going to do that for 4-5 sets, and then I'm going to move on to the next exercise. The first set, I might not feel the movement perfectly, but the second set, by stretching and squeezing, I have better control. And by the third set, I want everything to start cramping. And then I'm going to do 2 sets of that. The whole area is cramping. Move to the next exercise, do it again. So literally for me, it's make the muscle cramp. You don't have to get murdered, it doesn't have to be a massive pump, because again, I'm not putting much emotional charge into it, but it's the muscle is moving the weight. Stretch, squeeze for a second. Stretch, squeeze for a second, and connect the muscle to the body.
Right.
And do whatever you have to do, like in order to do that. So who cares if you're lifting a lot of weights or not? It does not matter.
So, like week-wise, you're saying you're doing it 6 times a week, right? Right now.
So I do about 600s and 4 5s.
Right.
On average, 4 5 5s.
So how would you say for someone who doesn't train twice a week, or someone like an average, how much minimum amount of hundreds a week? So
I would do 300s to 5s. Let's say for someone like five times a week, right? So 300 wise, because one is going to be for the legs,
right,
more toward the quads, right? So you're going to do your either, honestly, if you're a beginner, I would make you do like 5 sets of 20 air squats. It doesn't sound like much. For a beginner, it's a lot. 100 air squats, that's going to burn everywhere.
Yeah.
Done correctly?
Yeah, or lunges.
Or lunges, for example, stuff like that.
I'm so sore.
Right, so I mean, like that would be perfect on the 100s. Right. There's not much skill into that one. If you look, like the 100s also are going to be low skill movements. Right. I'm not going to use the 100s to do snatches, let's put it this way. I'm going to do, that's why I like the global gym with the machines, is because honestly, there's no technique required. The machine does it for you, so you just bang 20 reps. I can close my eyes, I do it. I close my eyes and I focus on stretching, squeezing, stretching, hold attention, stretch, hold attention. And I do that 15 times. You actually close your eyes and actually concentrate. Don't just do 10 reps like this, like I see most people that have absolutely no connection. They're not present in the movement. This is your time for exploration. Right. This is your time to be present in the movement. Do it correctly. Don't put an emotional attachment to it. That does not mean you're not doing it correctly. Close your eyes, stretch, squeeze. 4 or 5 sets of 15 to 20 reps, 3 exercises, bang them. Right? If it's hypertrophy, I'll go toward closer to the 15s than the 20s. But so if I have a newbie, I would make him do like air squats, lunges, teach him how to move at the same time as I'm doing that. So low skill movements, then maybe some leg press. I mean, so more toward the quads, right? Another session will have some hammies. So what I'll do is I'll do mostly quads and maybe like shoulders or something. If it's a newbie, it's not going to be blasting the energy so much. So maybe I'll do quads and arms or some shit like that, just to start to develop the triceps. I'll get to that. Then another session will be back and hammies and bicep, like a push-pull type of thing. You know, you do pecs and shoulders and triceps, and the other one you do back, hammies, biceps, and the other one you do legs. So more quads. That's 3 days of 100. That's a very simple stuff. It's called a push-pull. That's 3 days, and then the 5s we're going to do something else we'll cover in the other podcast. But so for the 100s, it'd be that. For example, for the tricep, you see most people trying to hit the outer head. What you need if you want to be strong or do CrossFit or be endurance is that muscle right here by the elbow. This is a very, very, very important muscle because it will allow you to stabilize overhead. This is the one I work a lot for the dumbbell overhead. This is the one that allows me to lock the dumbbell. So whenever you're thinking locking on the snatch or locking on the clean and jerk, what you want is that muscle inside by the elbow.
Yeah.
That one, so you're going to do some supinated one arm tricep extensions. And then same thing, you're going to squeeze. So I'm going to let my elbow go forward, not back, because otherwise I use my back, right? I'm going to let my elbow go forward so that my arm is squeezing the living shit out of that muscle right here. And then I'm going to stretch. And then I'm going to squeeze again. And then I'm going to stretch. And I'm going to hold the tension for a second. And I'm going to do 4 side sets.
It is so hard.
Right, so she has a problem with the triceps.
Let me tell you that this is so hard.
That it crushes her every time.
Well, not...
Side.
Just the whole like this and then bringing it forward. I'm like,
how?
The first few sessions we did, I was like, how? Like I don't get it.
So she cannot lock out. Like her arm stays bent. She always had an issue with the triceps, and she has the hardest time locking out. But that's what you're going to see on the snatch and everything. Her arms want to stay bent.
Yeah, I always want to do this. Always like want to be in this position, like slightly bent.
Slightly bent. Yeah. She always had an issue with the triceps. So then, when it comes to locking out overhead, that's always a problem. Yeah. So part of fixing that will be that extension of the tricep because she's lacking that muscle toward the elbow.
And if I don't target it, my elbow will start hurting. So I need to start.
So there's a tricep, yeah. So and that's that supinated one arm extension.
But if I would have been bored on that workout, I would not have connected to it, and I got so sore in the right place out of it that it just like I was pumped for. It felt like I had a pump in it for like.
Yeah, for like.
So
but what's good?
Connection to it for like 2 days, which was super nice because then I could do CrossFit and I could feel the connection to it and I could lock out the right way with the right tension and it was so enjoyable.
And your elbow wasn't hurting?
Yeah, no, my elbow isn't hurting in general, but I mean like...
because we're doing this.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's going to be that. For me, there's the bicep. If I don't do the bicep, my shoulder starts hurting.
But it's also that connection that I had for 2 days where I could do CrossFit on that connection for 2 days. Which was
so by the way, the connection lasts 2 days. So that means I'm going to make Janina do that exercise every 2 days, every 3 days. Every third day, that means twice a week. Means she has to do that twice a week. Because then but that might not be what I need. That might not be what you need. But what Janina needs to do is, Monday, Thursday, 5 sets. Yeah, exactly. But see, like she wants to bend the wrist. She can't keep the wrist like this and extend the arm. Every time she has to bend the wrist to go. So you're going to see that on the snatch where she has to bend the wrist in order to achieve an extended position. But that makes her go to the traps and now the shoulder is out of place. Whereas I want her to stay with arm extended with a false grip because we're going to need that. And then again, so I can't work that during a CrossFit workout. So I'm going to work it at the gym. I'm making her do some supinated one arm tricep extension. Is it boring? As hell. But if you do it with the right intent, there's a purpose to it, then you can actually get a lot out of it. Yeah. And so rear delt or side delt or front delt, depending, right? So do you need dorsal or do you need teres major? Do you need, to be able to, most people cannot protract their shoulder blade. So there should be a lot of work for all of you protracting the shoulder blade. So if I have a newbie, I'm going to take him and make him do an exercise that allows him to retract the shoulder blade. That's easy. Let's say the pec deck, right? But then one that allows the protraction of the shoulder blades. Those are your gymnastic exercises, let's say a hold. Right, a hold while protracting the shoulder blade, not squeezing but protracting is actually very important.
Oh, that's why I'm also I'm starting gymnastics now with Rachel, and I'm so
shout out to Rachel.
Her. And I'm so happy we did so much 100 stuff because at least I understand a little bit of my upper body while doing it. I still look like a dry fish like a fish on the
right. So that's going to be
ride,
part of the
like
100.
still, like you have a better connection to learn new movements and to be able to do new movements without being completely like lost.
Right. So for example, the holds would be a good way to do the hundreds. I mean?
Yeah, and like, but also for newbies, like it's a great way to start, and then introducing more and more and more difficult movements, because at least they have an understanding of their body first through the hundreds, right?
Right. And so, for example, going back to the stretching between the sets, that's where also you can gain better connection to the muscle. So don't stretch and just relax and pop your shoulder. Find the pec, stretch it, stay connected to it like an isometric contraction. That will help your mobility, and at the same time you're connecting to that muscle while in between sets of working it. Like if you can't,
I'm so
how dare
sorry
you?
about that.
How dare you? Interrupting all of us.
I'm so sorry about that.
Where was I? If you, so you're gonna find a connection on the pec on doing things like this. The same thing for the delts. Like there are different ways to make that session of hundreds very valuable. Between for gymnastics, you can do holds, you can do planks, you can do a number of things, right? Yeah. So that out of those 3 sessions, I would work those simple movement patterns that need to be worked, but not in a workout format, in just like, all right, let me just do, like sets of 20 where I can control the movement pattern and go through it. Again, not the most exciting thing ever, but that base work is gonna allow you to do the other stuff, which is the 50s and the 5s, where the fun is.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree, like that does not sound like especially like a lot of fun, but
fit in the sense of like it's gonna.
Right.
And that's what
So
we're working on, right?
instead of a day off, do that. It's not that taxing unless you put a lot of emotional charge into it. You might be tired at first from doing that because you're just not used to the volume, but honestly within 4 weeks you will get used to it, and you'll be able to go to the gym, do your thing 45 minutes an hour, and live like you didn't train. Like right now, like I don't feel that I train. I'm ready for my session this afternoon, but because mentally I have absolutely no connection to that workout, but I still did the work, and it still gives me a lot. It just doesn't feel like it, right? I don't live with a massive pump because the weights were too light. I mean, like I just did work on my shoulder this morning. I'll do my squat and everything this afternoon, and tomorrow we're leaving for New York tomorrow, but I'll be able to bench without problem. Yeah. So they are actually very important sessions in that aspect, and
you can also do them probably tomorrow before the flight, even, because they're not that taxing.
They're not that bad, and again, like I need to do those, for example, to get my hammies going. Hammies and biceps. Same function. If I don't have my hammies and biceps through those sessions, they start to atrophy, and then I get in trouble with other stuff.
But you also saw a difference in the bicep and the
they're growing. Like that for once they're growing. But why? Because the volume is so high.
Right.
Because before I was putting too much emotional charge into it, so it's 2-3 sets of 10 to 12 reps, so now it's 30 reps-ish instead of 100, and I can swing the weight a little bit. I'm thinking performance, which is ridiculous, but that's how it works. All guys have an ego in the gym. And so I let the egos get the best of me so many times in the session, which is why my hammies and my biceps don't grow. They're weaknesses of mine. I need to be very thorough, volume-wise, stretch and squeeze very precisely, especially on hammies and biceps, to get any results out of it. So both of them, I do it in a compound form, like for my biceps, that curl that I was talking about for the biceps, and I do a lot of sets of that, and I'm very conscious of stretching and squeezing, and it's starting to show. I'm starting to make progress on those, but that's through just plain work. But that will give me a better bench. That will, like I bench like 140 for 2, like it's better already. I'm starting to go back to a higher level of strength. Why? Because the 100 is giving me the base that I need in order to achieve the 5s. Otherwise, my body would be breaking down already by now, and I would have to switch to the 50s. So what I find interesting about the 100s and the 5s is I'm able to stay in the 5s longer than I thought I would be able to.
Right.
Because I'm not breaking. So I realized that before I need to switch away from the 5s sooner, not because I couldn't take it, but because I was breaking. So I couldn't take it, but in that aspect. It wasn't like a nervous system or I can't sustain the effort. It was actually my body breaking.
Yeah, so you're now just working both extreme of the arts, and you're actually doing fine.
Yep. That's
so fascinating.
yeah. So I don't expect to have this forever. At some point, I'll go back toward the center and work my 50s. But for now, working the hundreds and the five together is giving me like really, really good results.
Yeah.
Like especially in the same day like that. And the fives allow me to counterbalance the. If I were to do just hundreds, I go crazy. Like I can't. Like I can't. Mentally, I can't. Like this feels like a waste of time.
Oh yeah, in that sense.
Oh, it still feels like a waste of time. The only reason I know it's not a waste of time. It just feels like it. If I were not doing the fives, I'd be like, where am I going in life with this?
Right.
I'm weak in the gym because I focus so much on the movement. I can't lift heavy.
No purpose.
Everybody's lifting more than me in the gym. What is the purpose of this? The purpose of this is to do the fives. So then I come to the home gym and I murder that session, and now it makes sense. But if I were just doing the hundreds, because I was thinking about that, maybe doing just a cycle of hundreds, no way. Mentally, I can't take it. There is no purpose to this.
Because then you will go to physique and how you look and stuff like that, or
right, and I don't give a shit, so it's not enough. It just doesn't feed my soul to do that. And I'm gonna look other guys lifting more weights or stuff, and then I'm gonna be like, but am I weak? Is that what this is? And then my ego is, I'm in trouble already. I just can't do it. So, because he has no meaning, plus, like machines and everything have no meaning for me. I'm an athlete first. I like moving. I like carries, I like, like the dumbbell, because there's a skill to it, as in a technique to it, and it's movement based. That I understand deeply in my soul. Like the whole 100 reps on a machine is almost like the opposite of who I am as an athlete, as a person. But that doesn't mean it's not necessary for me to get better at the fives, which is where I put my emotional charge. So for me to have a better workout at the fives, I need to do the hundreds. That doesn't mean in a way I like the hundreds. I don't, but I like what the hundreds are giving me. So I put everything that I can into them.
Yeah.
Is it satisfying? Absolutely not. I get zero satisfaction out of the sessions, 10% satisfaction out of those hundreds. I don't. Like I finish and now I'm like, yeah, so what? Like I'm gonna eat some more, rest, and I'm gonna murder the fives later today. And now I'm excited about the fives. Am I excited when I go to the gym? Absolutely not. But I know gyms, I'm like, oh, cool, I'm going to get a better movement pattern. I'm going to live. I'm going to get somewhat of a pump. Know what I mean?
Yeah.
Look good in the mirror. There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
Watch other people train and I do that.
I was going to say, it's not a bad thing. Brazilian women training is always great.
We are at the gym where there's a few pro physique Brazilian women there. It makes for a good view.
It's not too bad.
It's like you're trying going like, Jesus Christ. So sometimes I lose track of my set because I'm like 16, 23. What? Sorry, what was I? Some of them are hot. Yeah. Brazilian women are around in the right places.
But also like there's some legit bodybuilders in general.
There's some dudes that are humongous too. Like there's some legit pros at the gym where we're at.
We're in the gym, like we're doing our sets and talk like, yo.
There's a dude passing by, you go like, Jesus Christ. What the hell? Yeah.
A shadow is still passing by.
Yeah. So there's some huge dudes. It's a really hot women. It's like a legit gym. And then they have dumbbells to 110 kilos. Yeah, it's actually a legit gym. So
that makes the session fun because we talk a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Trash talk everybody. Yeah, it's fine. Like they don't have powerlifter. That's the only thing that I would like to see a bit more of. But from a bodybuilding perspective, they have legit dude and a lot of steroids.
Oh yeah, because that's the thing. That's where the conversation.
Everybody is either red or purple.
Yeah, that's also where our conversation leads down and go like, whoa, look at how purple.
There's some weird colors in that gym. That's another problem.
That's another problem. And a lot of plastic surgery. So that's also a topic of subject.
Yeah, they're hot, but not everything was there at the beginning.
Let's say the mentality plastic fantastic is.
It's a bodybuilding gym. There's no question. I am surprised as to how much surgery is going into the physique pro scene. Like I knew there was juicing even amongst women. I did not know there was that much surgery. I've seen it on Instagram, but until you see it like live, you go like, oh, okay. So none of this is real. Like that's as gorgeous as they are. None of this can be used. Yeah. Like it's a weird mix for that, but it's a bit the same when you see the dudes. It's like they look good, like round everywhere, but you can't use any of this.
Yeah, that's why I personally don't think it's.
It's impressive.
It's impressive, but it's to me, I like when you see that there's a function to a muscle instead of just.
Yeah, it's a longer
just
conversation.
Anyway,
Well, that
other
comes to taste. On
That's taste, yeah.
video and pictures, they look awesome.
Great. Yeah, and it's I have respect because it's a lot of work. Even though you use
Yeah.
drugs or
Doesn't matter.
surgery, it's
The
still
work
a
is real.
whole lot
Yeah,
of work.
it's a shit ton of work.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, you have to give credit where credit is due.
Yeah.
It's the discipline. I could never do this.
No.
I'd say like every day like that with that obsession toward, controlling everything in your like I could never do that.
You know what made me realize in the gym is how many veins there can be on the human body. Like holy.
Oh yeah, that's the dudes. Yeah,
shit.
they have veins
Like,
everywhere.
that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
I try not to stare, but sometimes I'm like, what the hell? I didn't even
Like,
know
I
there
didn't
was
know
a
you could have
vein
one.
there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Anyway,
Anyway,
that was the hundreds. Next week we are doing the
we're running
50s.
50s, right?
Right. We will be in New York this weekend for a seminar and Coaches Week. If you are around,
Say
join.
hi.
Yeah, come to the seminar.
Yeah, come to the seminar. Come to
Like
the
we're starting to rebuild the whole thing. Like the
I-
world is opening up again, so it'll be cool.
How do you feel about traveling, going to New York?
I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be back working and coaching.
Right.
So I'll always love doing seminar. At the same time, we have very good life here. So I'm a bit split between wanting to work and at the same time loving Brazil so much. So it's a
Brazil
weird.
is really
I feel
epic.
very attached to Florianopolis already.
Me too.
So it's an interesting conundrum I'm going through now. But I enjoy the work and I hope I'll see some of you in New York.
I'm very excited to see New York though.
Bye everybody.
Bye.